Hi and welcome back. Just to get everybody caught up here, my name is Hannah. I'm participating in my very first Three Rivers Pantry Challenge. It's week 2. We are halfway there, halfway through the challenge. I'm so excited to share what I've cooked throughout the week with you and learn from all of you. I've gotten so many great comments and suggestions on how to do things differently or better. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of this week's meals. We are back for the Three Rivers Pantry Challenge week 2. I was particularly uninspired with cooking today. I kind of just picked around at stuff all day, but Reno made us a delicious looking dinner here. We have some teriyaki pork over a bed of white rice. He made some slaw out of the head of cabbage that we had in the homemade ranch and some vinegar. And then he got these out of the freezer. These are jalapeno poppers that were in our garden that we preserved and put in the freezer this summer. So, bon appetit. I know I am going to love this and appreciate Reno getting creative with what's in our freezer and our pantry. So, we'll check back with you tomorrow. It is Sunday night. We're just getting ready for the week, cleaning up the kitchen, and I was looking at those potatoes that we had got from Azure a couple weeks ago, and they're just not going to be the long-term storage potatoes that we wanted. So I'm going to try to mash them up and freeze them. I'll let you know how it turns out, but I think it'll be nice to have a convenient side dish to be able to use. So I had just washed and boiled these potatoes. Okay, we'll season them. I have some pepper here. And then we made this mixture together the other day. It's the one with onion powder, salt, and Italian seasoning. So we're gonna get some butter in there. This is butter we get from Azure. So good. And then just a little bit of milk. And then we're just gonna let the mixer do the work. Okay, I let those potatoes cool, and then I made 4 servings of them in quart freezer bags. By serving, I mean this is at least enough for one meal for us and maybe some leftover. So I'm going to put these in the freezer. I think this is the opposite of Pantry Challenge. I'm supposed to be taking things out of my freezer and my pantry. However, I'm putting these into my freezer. I just wasn't confident in the ability for those potatoes to last. So I think these will be nice convenience items for us to have as a side dish with dinner. We're pretty simple. Dinner for us is usually a meat, a starch, and a vegetable. So this will check off that starch for us. Another thing I wanted to mention, these, I don't even know what you call them, bag filler stands. Get one. They are so helpful. They prevent spills. They make this going a lot easier. In the past, before I had these, I would have made a mess all over the outside of these bags as well. So I'll link these, but they are so helpful. Highly recommend. Hello and happy Monday. We're cooking up a very special dinner tonight. In the oven, we have a spaghetti squash. Which I believe is the last fresh produce item from our garden. So that's exciting. We used up all of the potatoes at Thanksgiving. So I'm gonna make some pasta and also a meat sauce as well. So we're gonna get started by sauteing up some onions. I'm going to make a batch of broth later in the week. So I'm gonna put these onion scraps in here. The chickens won't like those anyways. Next, we're just gonna chop up some mushrooms. Now I'm chopping up some asparagus to put in. This leftover container from my dishwasher packs is going to be my new compost chicken scrap bin because look, it has a perfect lid. It's easily washable. So I'm excited for that. But long story short, I'm going to be putting the asparagus scraps in there. All right, we have our veggies in: asparagus, mushrooms, and onion. So we're just gonna saute those for a little bit before we put our ground beef in to cook with it. And lastly, we're just putting a couple of fresh cloves of garlic in with the vegetables. Okay, now that the veggies are getting cooked up, we're going to put our beef in. I have a pound of grass-fed beef here from a local farmer. Another favorite kitchen tool of mine, the good old chop and stir. We'll get this meat all ground up here. So for the first time tonight, we're going to be trying a new Azure buy for us, this semolina spaghetti. Can you help me? Okay, so I'm cooking enough where we'll have some for leftovers as well. So the only thing left to add to this is these banana peppers. I preserved these from the garden over the summer and think it'll be the perfect little kick for our sauce. I also put whole cloves of garlic in with these peppers, and there's one of them in here, so that will add some nice flavor as well. And I'm thinking I'm going to save the rest of the juice these were canned in. I'm sure it's a little bit spicy, and I think that'll be a good addition to a salad dressing. Okay, next up we have tomato sauce from our pantry that we canned over the summer. So I can my tomato sauce plain so I can use it for whatever purpose I would like. I'm not sold on if that's how I'll do it next year, but so far it's worked out really well. So with that being said, we need to season this pretty heavily since it's not seasoned at all. We're gonna go heavy on the Italian seasoning, our blend from Azure. Add a little bit more onion powder. We'll do some salt. And then finally pepper. Okay, so the spaghetti has just a couple of more minutes. The sauce is simmering. The spaghetti squash looked done roasting. I just had put it in the oven with, some olive oil and some salt and pepper. So what we're doing is we're just going through with a fork and spaghettiing the spaghetti squash. This is our yield from the spaghetti squash. It was a pretty small one, but I'm going to save the rind, the skin of these. It still has some squash flesh in it as well, and these will be for the chickens tomorrow. All right, so let's get our dinner plated up here. We have some spaghetti. We're going to top that with some of our spaghetti squash, bulk that up a little bit. And then we have our homemade sauce that we made here. This is sauteed onions, mushrooms, garlic, and asparagus. We have some locally sourced grass-fed beef and some tomato sauce right from the backyard. I have some shredded mozzarella left over from when we made the stromboli on Friday, so we'll just put a little bit of that on top because everything's better with cheese. And then we have a salad to accompany it. So we'll see you tomorrow on day, I don't know what, of the pantry challenge. Okay, it is Wednesday. We are back in the kitchen making a Zuppa Toscana inspired soup. So we're just going to get started here. We have some olive oil heating up in the pan, and we're going to get our onions sauteing. It's been a pretty boring week of meals. Not boring, simple, I should say. I think the last time we were together was Monday night, and we were making the meat sauce, and we had our spaghetti sauce. Last night or yesterday, Reno made a sourdough loaf, so we enjoyed that with some jam and just picked around the kitchen last night for dinner. So this is our first meal in a couple of days. We'll get these onions added. I think soup on a cold winter night calls for dinner rolls, so I have some yeast, water, oil, and sugar working itself over there. I'm going to grab some garlic to get in and sauteing. Okay, we have 4 cloves of garlic that we minced up here. Put that in. Next up, we have a pound of pasture-raised ground pork. Now, personally, I think that pasture-raised meats, I think pork has the biggest taste and flavor difference. We love all of the different pork products, so we'll get that in there with the sauteed onions and garlic. All right, we'll take the chop and stir to this. Okay, I'd say the yeast worked its magic. Now this calls for an egg. Ooh. Look at how beautiful, ooh, beautiful those yolks are, and the egg white all over my counter. 3.5 cups of flour. And then finally, we're going to do 1 generous teaspoon of salt. On Easter, I made the world's blandest rolls. You know, I'm of the impression that there's no such thing as a bad roll. I made bad rolls on Easter and fed them to guests that I had over for the holiday. So I'm usually not a heavy salt person, but in rolls, based on that experience, I want to be pretty generous. Okay, so we have the mixer doing its thing, and we're going to get the oven preheated to 400. Okay, the sausage is looking like it's all cooked up. So I'm going to take the remainder of some chicken stock that we had open from earlier in the week, home canned here from our chickens that we raised here. And then I think this might even be, yeah, this is turkey stock. We saved our turkey from Thanksgiving. We put it in the freezer, and then we just made some stock and some soup from it, I think early over the weekend. So turkey stock, chicken stock, it all is kind of the same. So we'll get that simmering here. All right, we're gonna oil our stone here lightly. And now our dough here should make about a dozen dinner rolls. So let's see here. We went rogue and it turned into 10 rolls instead of 12. So I'm going to set those aside and I'll put them in the oven when the soup's closer to being done, so the timing works out better. Okay, we have some potatoes here that we washed up, so we're just going to slice them and get them in the soup. The thinner you slice the potato, the quicker your soup will get done. Now, this recipe calls for cream typically, but I like to use coconut milk in it, and I have a new Azure product to try, the coconut milk powder that you reconstitute with water. I've been really pleased with the buttermilk powder, so hoping to enjoy this as well. All right, so you reconstitute this with hot water. So I'm going to fill up the jar from our chicken stock just to get the rest of that out of there with some hot water, and we'll combine it with the powder. This is packaged very nicely. It's in a plastic bag within the paper bag, and it has a twist tie. So we have about 2 cups, a little bit more of hot water in here. We are going to combine it. It says mix 3/4 cup to 1 cup coconut milk powder with 1 cup of hot water. For light milk, use only 1/2 cup of coconut milk powder with 1 cup hot water. So I think we'll go with the recommended 3/4 cup per cup for now, which would make it 1.5 cups that we want. Canning funnel, back at it again. This is a little clumpy, but not bad. Oh, it smells delicious. I do have to apologize, my dishwasher is on, so I'll be curious to see if the sound picks that up. So we'll mix this in. That is beautiful. Now, we used ground pork and not ground sausage, so this is going to require some extra seasoning since I typically use sausage with this and that's already seasoned. So we're gonna go in with some salt. And then of course, heavy on the pepper. Probably heavier. We're gonna pop the rolls in for 12 minutes or so. Excuse me. See, they got plump just sitting there for a few minutes. So the rolls are in the oven. The soup is seasoned, and that's just going to cook until the potatoes are done. All those flavors will come together, the potatoes will get cooked. So what I'm going to do now is chop up some kale, because we'll put that in at the end. I like to put it in at the end once the heat is off, because I like some crunch. I like some crunch. I don't really want the kale to get cooked per se, just kind of wilted. So we're gonna save all these stems for the chickens tomorrow. Okay, we have the kale set aside that we can put into the soup once it's done cooking. Okay, and while the soup is finishing, we are just going to chop up a quick cucumber tomato salad. Okay, so we have our cucumbers and tomatoes chopped up, douse them in some balsamic. We'll do a quick little olive oil. And then we're going to do this really simple, just some salt, pepper, garlic powder, and a dash of sugar. And I lied, this oregano was really speaking to me as well. Looks delicious. Now, you can top them with butter. I'm not going to do that. We can put butter on them, jam if we want them tomorrow. I think they'll keep a little better if they don't have the butter on top. So it probably might seem a little crazy that I'm putting sugar on this salad, but if you look at any salad dressing, it has sugar or some type of sweetener in it, so this is actually probably a little bit healthier. All right, and here's our tomato cucumber salad. So we'll have this, rolls, and soup. I'm going to get on a workout. The soup is still working when the potatoes are done. Reno's gonna take it off the heat and put the kale in. Do you hear that? It's gonna turn out awesome. I will see you in a little bit when I'm ready to eat my dinner. Okay, workout complete, and I have a delicious dinner here for me. This soup turned out so good. We used some local ground pork, potatoes, some coconut milk powder from Azure, and some kale, one of those hearty vegetables we picked up at the beginning of the month to make sure we would still have some fresh produce. These rolls look like they turned out absolutely delicious. And then a reminder of summer, tomato and cucumber salad. So we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, today's meal is one of our summertime favorites, pork chops with a berry balsamic topping. I'm going to pair it with another tomato cucumber salad. Was loving that the other day, and some of our frozen mashed potatoes. So I have these pork chops patted dry. I heated up the cast iron with some oil in it. So we're just gonna sear those on both sides and then put the cast iron in the oven. Salt and pepper mixture, we're just gonna salt and pepper each side. So while we're getting a sear on the pork chops, we're going to get our berry balsamic glaze started. Now I have blueberries and strawberries today, they're frozen. This is good for the winter. In the summer, just use whatever berries you have fresh and around. I've used blackberries, raspberries, blueberries, strawberries. It all turns out a really nice end product. Okay, I'd say we have about a cup of frozen strawberries here. These will cook down and create some liquid. And then I'm just going to top these with some blueberries. We'll get these into our saucepan, get it heated. I'm hoping it creates enough liquid because they were frozen. If not, I'll put just a dash of water in with them to let them cook down. All right, let's flip the pork chops. These have a nice sear on them, so we're gonna get them in the oven. I have the oven preheated to 400, so we'll just roast those in there until they get to temp. Okay, so since we have that in the oven, let's get our berry sauce moved over here so we can keep a closer eye on it. Now, the dinner we had the other night with the cucumber tomato salad was absolutely delicious. We ate that all up. It was super easy to put together. So while we still have this fresh produce available, we're still in the first half of the pantry challenge. I'm going to get this chopped up and we're just going to repeat that process. Okay, we have our salad put together. The berries have pretty much defrosted, and so I'm taking my chop and stir. You can take a potato masher, or if you like a puree, you can put it in the blender or food processor at this stage, but I like it a little chunky. So what we're going to do, just kind of mash it up. You can even take a spoon and kind of just mash it along the edge of the pan. I did not have to add any water to this. They were frozen, so they just cooked down and created their own water. Okay, so at this point, here's what it looks like. Now I'm going to add the rest of the remaining ingredients and let it cook down. So here's where we go in with the balsamic. I would say probably about a 1/4 cup. This also enhances those fruity flavors. Just take, I know all of us canners have jam, just take some jam, put a little bit in. I'd say probably a tablespoon. If you don't want that, I would just recommend sweetening it maybe with some honey. But I think that helps with the thickness. It's always fun to use things that you've preserved. So we'll get that mixed in. All right, and I like to add a hint of cinnamon too. So we'll get it all mixed in, and at this point, you can keep the lid off so it reduces down. I'm going to check the temp on the pork because there's nothing worse than an overdone piece of meat. Oh my God, they look beautiful. All right, and it looks like they are done a bit ahead of schedule. Yum. The only thing we really have left to work through and get prepared for our meal is the mashed potatoes. We froze these together the other day. I haven't reheated any of them, so I'll be interested to see if I need to add any liquid or butter, but I'm just gonna put these in the microwave probably a minute at a time. The potatoes were a success. I heated them for about 5 minutes total. I didn't have to add anything to them, so really good convenience item. I have my pork chop here, pasture raised from a local farmer. I'm going to top that with some of our berry balsamic glaze. How good does that look? We'll get some potatoes on there. Honestly, I like a little bit of the sauce on the potatoes too. And then we're just going to top it, or I guess add to our plate some of that salad we made. Here's our meal for tonight, one of our summertime favorites. In the summer, usually we make it out on the Blackstone, including the sauce. We just put the saucepan out on the Blackstone as well. So this is a little memory of summer, one of our favorite meals, and I'm happy to be sharing it with you. We'll see you for our final meal of the week tomorrow. It is Friday night, we're kicking off a long weekend, and tonight we're going to be having pizza. So I'm going to start by making some pizza sauce. I've mentioned it before, I only made plain tomato sauce this year so I could kind of use it for any different type of purpose. So I got out a pint of our tomato sauce from the garden. We're going to get it working on the stove with a little bit of sugar and some seasonings to start to thicken up and become more of that pizza sauce that we're used to. Okay, we have the sauce going and we have the dough started. The yeast is in the warm water. Once that's frothy, we'll add the rest of the ingredients. It's the same pizza dough we made last week for the stromboli. Hi, Moose. So next up, we're gonna start on the toppings. I thought we could make some sausage pizza. So I bought these on Flash Food quite a while ago and I froze them. So we have some sweet sausage here. I was digging around for the hot sausage. I couldn't find any, so we'll just add some pepper flakes. But we will get that in there and then get out the chop and stir and really get at it. Break those up into crumbles. And we'll have some pizza toppings and probably some leftovers to do something else with this weekend. The yeast is nice and creamy, so we'll add the rest of our ingredients. 2 tablespoons of olive oil. 2.5 cups of flour, a teaspoon of salt. And then I go in with some Italian seasoning and some garlic, either powdered or, if you're feeling ambitious, fresh. We're gonna get this in the mixer and then let it rest until it's ready to go in the oven. Okay, so while we're working with the sausage here, breaking it up so it's crumbles, we're going to add some pepper flakes to it since this was the sweet variety. Okay, we have the sausage cooked up, and I took some mushrooms and sauteed them a little bit at the end as well. We have a nice thick pizza sauce here. Then the last step we need is cheese. So, you know, I freeze my cheese and I did not get it out in time. So I just had this vacuum seal pack in a bowl of warm water to see if we could get it defrosted. Okay, so we'll cut these into some smaller pieces. These are about the size pieces we want for the food processor, so we'll get those in and shredded. Okay, the cheese turned out fine, definitely usable, but I did notice a difference since I tried to get it unfrozen quickly. It kind of made it a little bit soft, so not the best for shredding, but it will definitely do the trick. The final step before we top our pizza is to roll out the dough. So it's looking nice and puffy here. We're ready to get it rolled out and in the oven. Okay, so we have our crust on the stone. Now let's get this pizza topped. We'll go in with the sauce. Next we'll go in with the mozzarella cheese. Okay, then we're gonna take some of these sausage crumbles. I think it'll just be easier with my hands. And then some of these mushrooms. You know, I had gotten a can of banana peppers out, but I think this looks like enough toppings. We'll have those banana peppers another time. Okay, so here's the final product. Before we put it in the oven, our pizza, homemade home canned sauce with sausage and mushrooms. Okay, here we are with tonight's pizza. We're going to serve this with the leftover tomato and cucumber salad that we have. It's gonna be a great Friday night dinner. Okay, so that is a wrap on week 2 of the Pantry Challenge. I'm going live tomorrow morning to kind of give an update on where we're at, what we've run out of, what we think we're going to run out of, and just kind of catch up with all of you. But so far, so good. 2 weeks in, stay tuned, subscribe, and you can follow along with us on the rest of this journey.